Now that we have the code in place to run the simulation, we can write its output to the results worksheet. Debug.print works well for testing and for smaller simulations, but when you start generating hundreds of values as output, you really do need to use a worksheet to manage and to summarize that data. In this movie, I will show you how to write values from object properties to a worksheet. My sample file is chapter 404, and you can find it in the chapter 4 folder of the exercise files collection. We won't be making any changes to either of our worksheets in this movie. We're just going to add VBA code. So I'll press Alt F11 to move to the main code module. We're going to write out all of our results at the end of the subroutine. So I will scroll down to the bottom of my code here, and above NSUB, I will write results to the results worksheet. So I'll click underneath the comment that documents that step, and I will add 2 lines of code. The first will activate the results worksheet, so I'll type worksheets, and then in parentheses and double quotes, results, period, activate. And then I also want to make sure that cell A1 on that worksheet is active as well. That's where we're going to start writing data from, or at least we're going to use that as our reference base. So I'll type active sheet dot range. So we'll use the range property. Then in parentheses and double quotes, A1, which is the cell address, period, activate. Now I'll click below step through each customer record and write property values. And here I'm going to write a series of 6 lines of code, and each one of those will write a value from a different property. So I'll type active cell dot offset. Then in parentheses, objc.customer ID. Customer ID numbers start at 1. So if we use offset to move down rows, customer 1 would be 1 row below A1, so row 2. The next customer would be in row 3, row 4, row 5, and so on. So we have customer ID, and we'll operate in the same column as A1, so column A. So comma 0 dot value. So we're setting the value for the cell we just identified, equals objc.customer ID. Now we need to write values for 5 more properties, but we're using almost exactly the same statement. We're just changing the offset by column and the property that's being written. So I will copy the line that I just typed in. So I've selected it, Control-C, Control-V. Now we do need to go over 1 column. So I'll change the 0 to a 1, and we're going to be writing entered. That is when the customer entered the system. And enter, Control-V. This time will be 2 columns over. And we will write left when the customer left the system. Control-V, 3 columns over. This is station, the station they're in. If they've left the system, that'll be -1. If they are still in the system when the simulation ends, then that will be noted here in this property. Enter. Then we're 4 columns over, and this will be is idle. So in other words, at the time, are they idle or not? And then the last will be 5 columns over, and that will be idle time. So the amount of time that a particular customer spent as idle during the entire simulation. We want to do this for every customer in the simulation, everyone in the customers collection. So I will go up to the top of the code I just added in and type for each objc in customers, which is our customers collection. Scroll down, and at the end, I'll type next. So once again, for each customer object inside of customers, we will write out its customer ID, the times that the customer entered and left the system, the station it's currently in, whether it is currently idle, and the amount of time it was idle within the simulation.